Woo! Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome back for another night of the 12 Beers of Christmas craft beer extravaganza brought to you by Brewvana. My name is Brian. Of course, I am back once again as your co-host or as your host. I did that 2 nights in a row, made that mistake. And I am joined again by a new co-host this night. My good friend Robin's joining me tonight to talk about this awesome beer. Robin, how you doing?
Hello, hello, hello. How's everybody doing out there?
It's good to hear that you got your AV problems worked out.
Exactly. And see what I'm wearing? I'm wearing the hat. I'm representing.
Got it. There. What the folks at home don't know is that we have a production meeting before this, and Robin and I were having all kinds of difficulties getting the audio visual sorted out. So we're here. We're ready to talk beer. We got a great beer. Let's get into it. I got my box right here. I'm gonna pop open. Looks like you got your beer ready to go. How's everyone doing in the chat tonight? Wonderful to see you all back. Jay Strong's in there. Kit Burke, I see you. Motor City Tim. Oh, everyone's back. Cheryl and Garrett. Victoria. I don't see my mom. Mom, where are you? You've abandoned me. This is awful. Let's get back to the box. Shane Livingston, how's it going? What's up, everybody? Ooh, we got chocolate coins in here.
Chocolate.
And we got this great Cloud 8 New England style IPA, hazy IPA we're going to be drinking tonight. Ooh. Where's the chocolate from? Motor City Tim asks. Somebody else asked if these are chocolates or edibles. These are chocolates. We are not sending you drugs other than the alcohol. These are chocolates from our friends at Lake Champlain Chocolates up in Vermont. We use them for our amazing beer and cheese pairing experiences with our sister company, Unboxed Experiences. And I guess I could start to spill the beans. That's why we've had so many great co-hosts and guests throughout these first few nights. 8 nights, 9 nights now? How many days has it been? I don't know. But Robin is actually one of our awesome Unboxed Experiences hosts. Yes. Also, Ben, our chat moderator through earlier in the week, he's one of our awesome hosts. So is MC. And Julie, my co-host last night, is kind of the top dog of all the Unboxed Experiences. So she's our experiences manager. So we bring the whole family in here. I'm the chief personnel officer for the organization. So I like to get all of our people involved, as many as we can, to help and make this a really fun time for everybody. So we got a great beer tonight, as you can see, nice and hazy in the glass there. What is everyone thinking at home? Oh my God, it's just orange juice.
I smell pineapple.
Pineapple.
Mm-hmm.
I get a little pineapple too. Yes, Kit, if you want to work for us. Well, actually, don't talk to me. Employment at brewtours.us. Shameless plug for our hiring department. Either myself or Victoria will reach out, or Valerie will reach out to you. So what are you thinking? First sips, Robin?
Well, I'm going to echo just what someone put in the chat. They said that this is smooth and juicy, and I concur. This is a smooth, juicy beer.
How do you feel about this as a style? Hazy IPAs, New England IPAs, is this something you normally reach for when you're drinking?
I usually go for more Belgian type beers, usually. But this, I can definitely see bringing this back out in late spring, early summer. That's when I see it.
This definitely has a nice, refreshing summer feel. And Rick in the chat agrees with you. I would drink. It just says I would drink in summer. Maybe he's just saying just in general, he's planning to drink in the summer.
Yes. Oh, it goes well with the chocolate.
That is something cool that we always try to talk about. Everybody tries to pair chocolate with dark beers, but think of like a chocolate covered orange. Mm-hmm. This beer is exploding with those citrus flavors, pineapple, like Robin mentioned, and it goes really well with our chocolates. Couple different varieties. There may be a silver one in there. There may be this kind of bronze one in there. I think bronze is just, yeah, bronze is milk chocolate. If you got a gold one, it's dark chocolate. And if you got the silver one, it's dark chocolate with mint. So, yeah.
People love that one.
You like the mint one?
Well, I haven't had that, but from what I've seen of the experiences, people go nuts over the mint chocolate.
Well, look in your box. You should have there should be one in there. Did you get one in your box?
I did. I'm trying to save my appetite because what I really, really want, I have some smoked oysters.
Oh, my God.
I think the oysters will go really well with this.
I don't know if I've ever had a smoked oyster. Chat, anybody in the chat had a smoked oyster?
Oh, they're delicious.
Yeah.
They're like it has if you've had pate before, it has that consistency. Yes. Great idea. I should go get them right now, shouldn't I, guys?
Only if you brought enough for all our viewers.
Oh, okay.
So once again, everybody, welcome back. We got another great night for you. Obviously, as everybody has already seen, we got a great beer for you. We got a good discussion. And as always, we have a chat moderator here helping us out tonight. So if you want to start conversations, put them in the chat. That's a great place for them. But if you have those questions to ask, throw them in the Q&A. Our chat moderator tonight, Tim, is back for another night. Ben needed another night off to rest on his laurels after his championship victory on New Year's Eve and his slow recovery yesterday. So everybody say hi to Tim for another night. Tim, what's up?
Hey, how's everybody doing? Glad to be back. Coming off of a big loss, as I saw other people in the chat in fantasy football today, but happy to be here and happy to enjoy the discussion. Just remember to throw everyone, any messages you have in the chat to everybody. I'm going to be happy to talk through, and we're going to be giving you a lot of great information in there tonight.
Yeah, chat going good. But like as Jordan said, a little hard to hear Tim, but that's fine because Tim will be staying quiet for the rest of the show. No, I'm just kidding, Tim. If you want to chime in with something, please do. Yeah, so we are going to be talking about this beer tonight. We're going to be talking about this style because if you tuned in last night, you know I am a huge fan of New England IPA, and we're going to get into everything about New England IPAs. Why do they smell so good without being so bitter? Why are they hazy? Where did they come from? Hint, it's in the name. And we're going to talk about this beer right here to get things started off. So we do have our Cloud 8 Hazy IPA from Cloudwalker, oh my God, from Eighth Wonder Brewery out of Houston, Texas. And they're a brewery that's been around since 2013. Eighth Wonder is a reference to the Houston Astrodome, which was, if you look on the back of your little card that we got, where's my card for tonight? There it is. We got our little card that came with it there. And if you read on the back, Eighth Wonder is a reference to the Houston Astrodome, which was referred to as the eighth wonder of the world when it first opened. When Eighth Wonder, the brewery that we're drinking beer from tonight, went to open their brewery, they actually started brewing in a very dome-like warehouse that was like really reminiscent of the Houston Astrodome. So they call themselves Eighth Wonder. They've been brewing since 2013. And interestingly enough, in 2018, they actually opened their own distillery. So they can brew beer and distill liquor under the same brand name. They do a lot of cool stuff down there. And one of those things that they do that's very cool is this Cloud 8 IPA. And that brings me to a very good question in the chat. Larry, is the citrus taste really just from the hops, or did they put juice in the beer? So I would say there is no juice added to this beer. Definitely not. But it is not just from the hops. There is something that happens in this fermentation with these types of beers. And we talked about this earlier in the week, and that's called biotransformation. Robin, have you ever heard of that term?
I have not,
Okay, so
but I'm hearing it now.
Yes, you love Belgian beers, and this is something
Yes.
Belgian yeasts are really, really good at doing. So biotransformation is when a organic material, organic matter, living matter, in this case, our yeast, is going to take a compound from hops or from fruit, and they're going to eat it like they do with their food normally, and they're going to transform it into something else. So the example I used earlier in this week is there's a very common compound in hops called geraniol. And as you could probably guess from the name, it smells like flowers. It's a really floral smell. Well, certain yeast will eat that geraniol, they'll biotransform it, and they'll produce a product known as they'll produce a compound known as beta citronol, which again, as the name kind of alludes to, is going to be very citrusy flavors. So certain yeasts, English yeasts and Belgian yeast specifically, can do this thing where they take certain flavors and transform them into other flavors. And that's exactly how we get that juicy character in this beer, is the yeast that they use is biotransforming compounds in the hops and turning them into things like beta citronol that are very, very juicy.
And smooth.
Very smooth, very smooth. I think somebody asked what the hops were in this beer. I believe it's Simcoe, Citra, and Amarillo. Yes. Kit Burke says, so technically we are drinking yeast crap. Yeah. Yeah. One of the things I like to say when I'm giving brewery tours or teaching people about beer is that yeast eat sugar and they poop out alcohol and they fart CO2. So yeah, the alcohol is the yeast poop, for lack of a mature phrase. So Robin, around you, are there any breweries that are kind of known for this style of beer, or any breweries that you've had these from that you really like?
Not so much in my area. We just have, I mean, honestly, I haven't been much of anywhere since COVID. So
Probably smart.
yeah, so I really haven't been around that much.
Mhm.
But the breweries in this area, at least in Pennsylvania, the one that I'm the most familiar with, and it's because I went to school in Pittsburgh, is the Yingling Brewery, and they do mainly lagers and ales. So
And
that's what they're known for.
yeah, kind of the signature lager of all of Pennsylvania there. And yeah, I'm sure they're doing a hazy IPA nowadays, because
Okay.
everybody is. And that's actually, I don't know if they are.
All the cool kids are doing it.
Exactly. And that's what it is. So let's get into that. Let's talk a little bit about New England IPAs. Tim, the chat guy, is throwing up a very good article from VinePair. What is a New England IPA and what is a New England IPA? So we can define a New England IPA with a few characteristics. Number one, and most markedly, they're going to have that hazy appearance. And that is not actually on purpose. The original brewers that started brewing these styles were trying to pack as much hop flavor and aromatics into the beer as they could. And this resulted in the beer being hazier. There is all kinds of different compounds from the hops in there that are connecting with different compounds in the yeast, and that just stays in some suspension because there's so much hops in there, so many more hops in there. They end up staying in suspension. Higher protein grains help that too. There's often a lot of oats in these beers, a lot of wheat and stuff like that. The other big thing is the aroma. Obviously, we're getting big pineapple and citrus aromas off of this. And that is so typical of New England IPAs, hazy IPAs. And we're going to get into why in a second. And then, of course, the taste, you get that juiciness right up front. Anything lingering for you, Robin?
Not the citrus. I'm going to say the hops are definitely lingering a little bit.
Yeah, some almost like
Like I don't know, like a cracker.
Yeah, there's a little cracker hanging around. Kit Burke is saying tangerine, like kind of like the peel. And Tom hit the nail on the head. Hops lingering, but not too hoppy. Not a lot of bitterness hanging around there. And that's the other thing, is that finish with this beer is going to be more sweet than a typical IPA, where a typical IPA is going to be more bitter. And that all comes from how these beers are brewed. So if you remember earlier in the week, one of our other co-hosts, MC, broke down the hopping process for us. And if we remember, adding hops early in the boil adds a lot of bitterness. Adding hops about midway through the boil adds a lot of flavor. And towards the end of the boil, that's going to give us our aromatics. The big change with New England IPAs is they're going to add the majority, if not all of their hops towards the end of the boil, resulting in these beers that are insanely aromatic with hop quality and super flavorful with all that juiciness, but you don't get that bitterness that hits you right up front.
Right. Yeah. That's why I like this, because I usually don't like IPAs because I usually find them too bitter.
Yeah, and that was the case for so many years, and IPAs were the majority of the market, still are the majority of the market. And if you wanted to bring people into craft beer, you had to give them this crazy, bitter, assertive, like, it's really a lot to give to somebody and be like, here, try this. Like, this is what I love. They're like, you're crazy. Like, so, yeah, Tom agrees with you. Too bitter for most IPAs. So let's get into the history then. Why this came out the way it did. Do you know the history of New England IPA at all? Anybody at home? Anybody chime in? Anybody want to take over hosting? Just
I'll mail you my hat.
yeah.
Actually, everybody should have a hat.
Oh, shh. They don't know that. Shh. They don't know that yet. We just moved past that. Forget Robin said anything, guys.
I said nothing.
So, Daniel Keene coming through with the answer. I think Daniel Keene had a really good answer last night to one of my questions. But yes, Heady Topper Funksy also said it. Yes. So this originated out of Vermont. New England IPA specifically. Most people will say they can be traced back to one specific brewery, and that is the Alchemist, founded by John Kimmick, fellow Pennsylvanian originally. Grew up in Pittsburgh here, and actually worked at the homebrew shop right down the street from me, where I still go and get my grains and stuff if I do homebrew. He wanted to go professional, so he actually reached out to a guy named Greg Noonan at the Vermont Pub and Brewery. Greg was already experimenting with all different kinds of styles and was very well respected throughout the industry. And Greg kind of took him under his wing. And one of the projects that John took on under Greg's wing was retooling their IPAs and making them more palatable. Like Robin said, most drinkers, or like Robin alluded to, most drinkers didn't want super, super bitter, especially new drinkers. If you know where VPB is in Burlington, it's right in downtown Burlington. There's a walking, like a pedestrian street right around the corner. So there's a lot of shoppers, a lot of just family folks, everyday people, not beer nerds, that could come in there. So they wanted to retool the recipes to make them more palatable for people. Church Street. Thank you, Glenn, in the comment, in the chat there with the very relevant comment. So John's working at VPB. He eventually builds up his skills to the point where he can go off and start his own place. And he starts a place called The Alchemist out in Stowe, Vermont, just a little bit away from Burlington. And his focus was just brewing good beer. And 1 year after he opened, he released a beer called Heady Topper, which was this 8% big IPA, but it was very reduced on its bitterness, very low bitterness, and showcased those flavors of hops and aromas. It's said that there's 7 different hop varieties that he used in that first batch of Heady Topper. This beer would really, really inspire a ton of people in Vermont. Very notably, a guy named Sean Hill would get inspired by John Kimmick and start Hill Farmstead Brewery, which from day one brewed very hazy, juicy IPAs. Some people actually credit him as being the first person to use that term, juicy IPA. And other breweries like Fiddlehead and Lawson's would get started around that time and start to brew or get started brewing those New England IPAs around that time. They weren't called New England IPAs though. They were just the IPAs that everybody brewed in Vermont. Fast forward a little bit, they start to take over the entire East Coast. Massachusetts becomes really popular. Treehouse and Trillium start to build up. Tired Hands on the eastern side of PA starts to build up. And around 2017, we start to see national examples hit shelves with like New Belgium making theirs and Sierra Nevada eventually coming out with little hazy thing. So these beers start taking off. Everybody starts brewing New England IPA, and but this is only in the East Coast. Eventually, it would make its way out west, and once it made its way out west, we saw a switch happen. In 2018, the Brewers Association finally added hazy and juicy IPA to their list of categories for which people could compete at the Great American Beer Festival. And that kind of solidified hazy, juicy IPAs in the market. Drinkers really liked them. And now the largest governing body of beer in the United States was going to award people for their New England IPAs. Fast forward to today, where you cannot walk into a brewery without seeing a hazy IPA on tap. It is the standard for IPAs now. It's very hard actually to find traditional, clear West Coast style IPAs. So let's get into some Q&As here, because I just talked for a long time about those things.
You did very well.
Thank you. Thank you. Doug Lutz says, since we are getting to the end, sometime in the next few days, can you give a plug for the monthly beer club? How does that compare to the 12 days? Well, Doug, we are going to talk about the monthly beer club. Definitely plan to talk about it on our last night. But if anybody is interested, you can check out the Brews Less Traveled subscription box and podcast at brewvana.com. Go to brewvana.com, head over to subscription services, and you can check out the Brews Less Traveled podcast. It's a little different. We send you a box of 6 to 8 beers, I believe is what it is. There's Tim with it tagged in the chat there. We'll send you a bunch of beers from a lesser known beer city. We've done Cincinnati, we've done my hometown of Pittsburgh, but we've done some other gems out there as well, such as Birmingham, Alabama, and maybe some of the breweries you see in the 12 Beers of Christmas here will be represented in a Brews Less Traveled box. What do you think of this beer still? Still liking it?
Yeah.
Wishing you had another one to pair with your smoked oysters.
I know. I'll live. But
Yeah.
I'll live.
Here we go. Let's see. Would I be correct? George Hahn asked, would I be correct that Juice Bomb beers have juice, and what style are they? No, Juice Bomb is just like a kind of hype term that people use to describe these beers. This would be a Juice Bomb. Anything that's like really juicy, especially in terms of an IPA, they would say a Juice Bomb. Funk Z asks, what is your favorite New England IPA? Robin, do you have a favorite hazy IPA that you've ever had?
I'm trying to think if it's an IPA. No, my other favorite beer is it's this seasonal beer.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's either Magic Elf or Magic Hat.
Mad Elf.
Yes.
Yes.
That
From
one.
Trogs, right down the road from you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very, very much not a New England IPA.
No,
but,
no, it's not.
a great
like
beer.
I said.
Funksy asked what our favorite New England IPA is, and there's a lot of people throwing answers in there. Vicinity from Trillium, New Belgium, Voodoo Ranger Juicy Haze, Power Days from Tonewood. And I'm going to have to go with the hometown response here. Brew Gentleman's General Braddock's IPA is,
General Braddock's.
yeah, without a doubt, my favorite New England IPA and a contestant for my favorite beer, period. That is just a perfect beer. Funk Double Citrus, Treehouse Haze, Meadow Mist from Blowing Rock. There's a lot of answers. And Lance says, to tie back, General Braddock's was in the Brews Less Traveled, and it was amazing. Yes, it was. See? Anything from Frost, Adam says. Clown Shoes, Rainbows Are Real. That's what Victoria says. And Nick says, Hazy Little Thing. Lots of different opinions about New England Ice. Edward from Hill Farmstead, another one that's close to my heart there, Jared. Here we go. Steve Wilson asks, what is the main difference between a West Coast IPA and a New England IPA? So West Coast IPA, they're very similar in the fact that they're going to use a ton of hops. However, a West Coast IPA is going to be very dry. It's going to finish with a crisp flavor to it. It's going to be very dry, and that's going to accentuate a lot more of the bitterness. And like Robin and I were talking about earlier, there were so many bitter IPAs on the market, 10 years ago or so, and most of those were West Coast IPA styles. New England IPA, it's going to finish juicier. It's going to be more subtle on the bitterness. It's going to have a lot more aromatics as well.
I like that word. Aromatics. Yeah.
Yeah, I anytime I use that instead of aroma, I feel like way smarter about myself. So there's a couple questions floating through the chat, and also one asked kind of about brewing New England IPAs and a couple things that are important in that process. So number one, the most important thing for New England IPA in the brewing process is going to be dry hopping. Without a doubt, these beers can't be what they are without considerable amounts of dry hopping. And what's dry hopping, you may ask? So dry hopping is any time, I don't know why I did that. Dry hopping is any time we add hops to the beer after it's already fermenting or after it is done fermenting. So typically brewers are going to add all their hops in the boil or in the whirlpool while there's still some heat present. This pulls a lot of the bitterness out of the hops. And are the hops still working? I don't know why that made me laugh. My friend has a shirt that says my hops. I can't fit in these skinny jeans because of my hops. Anyways, we're on a sidetrack here. So when you dry hop a beer, you get more of those aromatics because the beer is at room temperature or colder, and you don't get the bitterness out of it. With the New England IPA, they're going to dry hop those at 2 to 10 times the rate that they normally would dry hop an IPA. So there's a considerable amount of hops added to the actively fermenting beer or the beer that has finished fermenting. And that has such a key role in the aroma of the beer, the flavor of the beer. Those hops are going to add oils and contribute to the texture and the mouthfeel of the beer. And it's also going to be what gives it the super haziness. There's a number of reasons why beers like this are hazy. The yeast strain that they use, the hops, the polyphenols in the hops, the oats and proteins and stuff. But if you really wanted to boil it down to one thing, it's the amount of hops that they're adding in a dry hop. To put it very practically, a normal traditional American IPA could be hopped at a rate of about half a pound of hops per barrel of beer. New England IPAs are typically hopped at least 2.5 pounds per barrel, 2.5 pounds of hops per barrel. So they get a ton more hops in them, and it's so integral to the style. Another thing that they're going to do is include some type of high protein grain. So oats or wheat in the grist. That's going to give it that nice pillowy mouthfeel and help contribute to a beer that is super, super smooth. And then another big thing is yeast selection. You have to use certain types of strains so that you can get the biotransformation with that fermentation process. So English strains are really popular. Also, they'll sometimes use Belgian strains. And the biggest curveball I've heard is Bissell Brothers up in Maine actually uses the same yeast strain that they use to ferment Anchor Steam, but they use that for all of their New England IPAs. So yeah, lots of stuff there. Tom in the Q&A says, I do like a head on my beers, but a lot of microbrews are kind of flat. Why? I'm not sure. Some can be from just bad brewing process. Some can be like our beer last night from a lot of adjuncts in the beer and they're not stable. But this beer's still got, mine's still got some head hanging around. And if we just give it a swirl, we could get some of that head back. This is a pretty good, I'd say this is a great example of a beer with great foam stability. It depends on ingredient choices too. Water content, it varies a lot. And I'm sorry, but that's not the best answer. Stefan, I think it's a Stephen, please correct me if I'm wrong, asks, is that rate of hopping part of what contributed to the shortage of hops a few years back? No, those are harvest issues. They were having problems with the harvest, and I think maybe some wildfires have destroyed some crops as well, but I could be talking out of my rear end. But no, it was not because of hopping rates. It was because of the hop shortages during that year's harvest. Yeah. Do you have questions, Robin, that you want to ask?
No, I'm just soaking it all in. I'm just, cool. Taking it all in. More awesome stuff, more stories for my upcoming events. Yeah.
Cheryl and Garrett, my favorite question askers. They've been asking killer questions every night. If you were going to brew your favorite hazy New England IPA, but you wanted to get it closer to a West Coast IPA, what would you do different? That is a wonderful question. There's a number of things you could do differently. You could add sugars in there that are more fermentable to promote the yeast to dry the beer out. So you could add like table sugar or something that the yeast is going to chew through really easily to turn that kind of residual sugar into more alcohol and dry that beer out. You could increase your bitterness charge at the beginning of the boil to give it a little bit more of that bitter backbone. And you could change your yeast. You could brew the exact same recipe that you brew for a New England IPA, and you could change to, I almost spilled that beer on my desk. You could change to California ale yeast. So I'm going to answer, that was the last one. Cleared out all the questions. We did it. Cheers.
Chin chin.
You finished yours. I guess I had to finish mine.
Go ahead. Yeah. Don't make me look bad.
And I didn't try the chocolate at all. That one really went down hard. That is very nice with the chocolate. Very nice. Jordan asks, Robin, what's your favorite style of beer? You have to put it on one style.
Well, I said earlier, I like Belgian style beers. That's my favorite.
You like the more like fruity Belgians, like a Tripel, or?
I like Tripel. I like, if I'm feeling really fancy, a Chimay.
Oh,
that's fancy. It's special.
Well, Ryan's going another level. Top 3 favorite beers you've ever had.
Top 3 favorite beers I've ever had. I would say Leffy, definitely. And to be this is it's a little basic. Don't throw anything at me. It's a basic beer, commercial, Blue Moon. I mean, who doesn't like a beer with a little orange in it, right?
I would be lying if I said that at one time in my life, Blue Moon wasn't my favorite beer. So.
And then a third beer. The third beer would be the elf stuff, the Mad Elf.
Mad Elf.
That's
Nice.
good.
I want to get to one more question because this gentleman has asked it at least twice that I can see. And that's Mike Y. And he asked, what do you think about the impact of Untapped on the beer industry? Do you use Untapped, Robin?
No.
Yeah, I'm not a big user. I think Untapped has definitely had mixed impact on the industry, to say the least. I think it's really good that people are able to connect over the beers that they're trying, and that they're able to rate beers and let people know that, like, hey, this is a really good beer. It's a really good great way to check and see, like, oh, are my friends liking this, or is the general public liking it? But also there's the downside to it, and that's that people can use it as a way to get back to breweries that they don't agree with or that they just don't like, and they can use the rating system to really tarnish the reputation of that brewery. And that's what kind of bugs me about it, is that people put a lot of stake in those Untapped ratings, and when they see that a beer has bad ratings, you now have to go into the context of why were those bad ratings? Oh, were they mad about the release process of the special beer? Were they mad that, they were only putting so many limits on how much people could buy? Do they actually just not like the beer? That's, it's convoluted and complicated. And I would say overall it's great. There are some bad parts to it, but that's just like anything. It's great to keep track of beers. Here would be my suggestion. If I was going to take over Untapped and change it, I would change the rating system to a very simple, I liked it, I didn't like it, neutral. I think a very simple system like that to just see, 5,000 people rated this beer and 4,000 of them liked it. Okay, well, let's try this beer out. I think people think they're the beer version of Siskel and Ebert on there, and they think their opinion carries a lot of weight. Just like me, because I've been sitting here on the internet telling you all of my opinions for the past, how many nights has it been now? This is Brian's Untapped.
Brian's Untapped.
One more question I want to answer. Nick in the Q&A asked, is London Ale 3 cheating? He's referring to the most popular strain that people use for fermenting New England IPA. And no, it's not. It's probably what was used in this beer. If I had to guess, this tastes like a beer brewed with that London Ale 3 strain. And it just makes really, really nice beers. There's nothing wrong with that. All right. Nothing is cheating when it makes delicious beer. Correct, Tim. Tim, the chat man.
Yes. Thank you, Tim.
Yes, thank you, Tim. So, Robin, final thoughts.
Final thoughts. I really like this beer. Like I said, I definitely bring this out for a summer cookout, anything like that. Nice and easy, smooth and juicy. I like this beer. See, I'm using your scale, Brian.
Great. I would say I also like this beer. Chat, use the new Brian Untapped rating system. Like this beer. Neutral, didn't like this beer. Go. Keith, like. I like this. Look,
Yeah, see?
it's a wonderful world. Neutral.
That's
cool.
all right.
That's cool. Not every beer is for every person.
That's right.
Overwhelming like.
Overwhelming. Love it.
My likes have turned into loves. I love the chat. Great group of folks in there. This is a great beer. I really, really enjoyed this. Yeah, not much else to say. Thanks again, everyone, for joining us. Thanks, Robin, for joining me as co-host tonight. As always, You can find more at brewvana.com. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook at Brewvana. And you can find me back here tomorrow night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern again. I will have another co-host. She is familiar. You know her. Everybody in the chat, guess who it's going to be. I will have another beer. We will have a guest. The guest has been confirmed. We talked to them yesterday and confirmed them again. Robin, if you didn't know, we've had 2, now 3 guests ditch out on us this week.
Oh,
yeah.
dare they?
So everyone and everybody that's been talking about brewery guests, we have a brewer guest tomorrow. We got a brewer guest on Tuesday. We have a brewer guest on Wednesday to close out the whole thing. So if you are here for brewing talk, the next 3 days are most definitely for you. To Rick, hopefully not a sock puppet. The sock puppet is gone. I can't find it anymore, but the sock puppet will not be coming back. So
Wow.
Brian, use the stockings behind you. No, those are decorative. Those are not to turn into people. Those are decorative. We don't need to do anything with those. So yeah, thanks everybody for joining us. We'll be back again tomorrow at 8:30 with a great guest, another great beer, and of course, another great co-host. Good night, everyone. Thanks again, Robin. Thanks, Tim.
Thank you.
Going in as chat moderator. Thanks to everybody in the chat. Great night. See you.